this is Derek Fournier with Plainsight Strategy Group. This is the first in a series that we are going to label or market or brand as Plain Spoken. In this particular case, it's a chat with a longtime friend and expert here in the Lakeland business area, Chrissanne Long of Marketing Systems Blueprints. Now, the backdrop for this, before I bring her into the conversation formally, is that I'm an idiot. And I'm an idiot, which means I fail faster than most everybody I know, which allows me to develop this thing we call wisdom, which is a really nice word for you've screwed up a lot. And so you've learned how not to screw up that efficiently anymore. And so I'm hoping that you guys, if you watch these little video interviews and such, can learn from my mistakes and maybe do things more intelligently than I have over my career. Now, another part of the backdrop here is the concept of value-based billing and fees as opposed to time-based billing. I think that it is interesting that so many of us go immediately to a concept of, oh, I have a great lawyer, he's $375 an hour. I have a great yard guy, he's $10 an hour. The time is not what we pay for. And as business owners, it's not what we should be charging for either. Right? So there's a problem on both sides of this table where we have to understand it is the value, the end results that we really are trying to purchase and that as business owners we are trying to provide. This was made crystal clear to me when I started reading Alan Weiss's books around the $1 Million Consultant. I highly recommend you read them if you haven't, though you do need to be careful. He is a bit on the pretentious side, and he does definitely think that he has every possible answer locked down. But if you can read through that, there's a lot of great material to ingest and to take in as a business owner. Now, to the specific and why I have Chrissanne with me, and then I will introduce her and let her talk a little bit about her background as well. I have a website, plain-site.net. You could take umbrage to the hyphen usage and the .net if you want to, but that's not the topic today. I have hated, for as long as I've been working with the internet, landing pages. I hate a lot of things that have become very standard in internet ease, and so I've rejected them. I understand the concepts of call to actions. I understand the need to drive leads or interest through your website. I have done an absolute crap job of it. Now, I know that. I know that that's not my field of expertise. What's even worse than that is that I have a friend who I've known for longer than I care to admit who happens to be an expert in this field, and instead of talking to her and the folks, and Craig at her company, I've sat up for 10 hours trying to figure this crap out, and I've gotten no further. And it was like this big sledgehammer or an anvil from Wile E. Coyote hit me on the head and went, okay, this is a really good example of how not to do something. So that's why I thought about getting Chrissanne in here. And with that being said, Chrissanne, welcome. Why don't you give the folks a little bit of background on who you are and what you do?
Well, thanks, Derek. I appreciate the opportunity to just be here for this little chat. This is pretty cool. I'm Chrissanne Long from Marketing System Blueprints. We started an internet marketing company for local businesses. It's just really, that's our target audience in Lakeland back in 2009. And we have been helping small businesses understand the internet and how to market their products, their services, and to be more visible in the online arena in whatever way that they need. And I think one of the things that Derek and I talked about earlier is that every business is different. Every business has a different need, a different strategy, and a different result that they're trying to achieve. So our strength, I think, is really building the relationship and better understanding each individual client as an individual client, and not packaging that up and saying, here's what you're going to pay, here's the box, let's put you in it. It's really more a hand-holding process and walking them through each step, each area that needs to be addressed, whether that's search engine optimization, social media strategy building, building a mobile marketing campaign, talking about video marketing strategies, whatever that may be, or in this case, a landing page strategy.
Now, you said some really important things in that preamble, but I want you to explain a little bit about the Lakeland Business Leaders as well, because that's really the auspices under which this started, was to discuss this amongst other folks who have offices or do business in the Lakeland area. Could you tell people a little bit about that? I know many of them who are watching this are going to be members of it, so it may be a bit redundant, but for those who don't, then they'll at least know what the hell's going on.
The Lakeland Business Leaders was an idea that I developed after getting involved with networking and understanding that all of the components of networking traditionally still exist, and they're very, very important. But I had a problem when I was into the networking, and let me give you a personal example. I had a testimonial. We were in a leads group, and we had a testimonial. Somebody stood up and said that they had gotten a wonderful lead from me setting up their Google Places page. They didn't have a website. They weren't ready to move in that direction for their website, but they had gotten this awesome lead from a railroad, I believe, or yeah, I think it was a railroad. And they were just thrilled with the fact that they'd gotten some new business from something that I had set up for them. And all I could think about was these 12 people aren't going to tell anybody that this other business just told me this wonderful story. So the solution is, you know, most businesses need to start thinking about how to put things online, how to get their customers, their happy customers, to proclaim their greatness in an online arena where it's in front of more eyeballs or where it's permanent, whether that be a Google Places review, or whether that's a testimonial that can be published on their website, or whether that's a Facebook recommendation. There's a lot of different avenues. So what I felt would be important would be to bring all people together without there being any affiliation to one, whether it be a BNI or the chamber or this group over here, but everybody's interest being they work, they live, they thrive, they play in Lakeland. And so we developed the Lakeland Business Leaders, and it's been a growing community of people who, whether they're paying attention every day or not isn't the point. The point is that they have a resource. We've created a resource for other businesses to share testimonials in front of everybody, or to go to their websites and say, hey, let me write a review for you through your Google Places page. So it's building an opportunity for networking that has not existed previously, and I think that's been the power, is that it's new frontier. Seems to be pretty popular, so we'll see where it goes.
All right, so that's you know, I've known you far before that and before you started Market Systems Blueprints. But to get back to the root question here, and to give you guys an idea here that are listening to this video, what the heck the point is, we started out with a problem. I needed something that I didn't know how to do. I had finally given in and decided that landing pages were acceptable to me. And instead of going and talking to an expert, I tried to do it myself, which a lot of us do, especially when we are either sole proprietors or small businesses. We think, oh, I don't have the capital to invest in, whether it's a good web designer or someone to do landing pages or whatever it happens to be. There's a billion of these things that fall into this bucket. I know that. I happen to be a business coach, and I tell people about how stupid this is on almost a daily basis. And here I sat looking at Instapage and hyperconversion and all of these things to figure out what the best solution was for me instead of calling Chrissanne, right? Because I lost sight of the value. So the way this all comes back to this is, Chrissanne, you said something really important when we were talking here a second ago. With the way you work with clients, you really want to understand what they're doing. You want to understand their problem. And I think that quite often, and again, here's a place where we're the problem as well, we have been trained almost to look for a menu, right? We want a menu of services. Yes. What does a widget cost? Because then I can see what a widget costs here and there and there, and I can see what the best deal is for that widget.
Right.
Many times irrespective of the value or the actual quality of the widget, right? And so what you had discussed was actually understanding the business problem. So can you describe a little bit from a value perspective how you would consult with me on how to get to a landing page solution?
Well, the questions that we would ask would involve what current systems that you already have in place, so that we can figure out what we're already playing with. If you're a brand new business and you don't have any systems, then we would provide you with solutions. What email company are you using? Are you using Constant Contact? Are you using MailChimp? Are you using Aweber, Vertical Response, whatever? Because that's going to be a huge component of your landing page. The other components are you looking at having a video landing page where the page itself has a video where you can have a 30-second welcome, hey, this is the deal, put in your email address, and I'll send you an instant report. What are the people going to get in return for entering their information? There has to be that call to action, but for most people today, there's got to be a reason. So a lot of landing pages are tied to information, info products or information, maybe a preview to the book, or 10 reasons why you should do X or why you shouldn't do X, or solution-based info products. And then the other would be of whether you're giving away maybe a lead-in coupon, a special deal or special option. Hey, enter your email here and we'll send you 10% off of your first visit, or some sort of reason, because there has to be a compelling reason. So those would be the first initial questions that I would need to ask. Now, every one of those questions going to 10 different businesses would result in 10 different answers. Somebody would have an email solution already in place. Somebody would want a video, somebody wouldn't want a video. Somebody would have a coupon offer, somebody would have an info product. Somebody would say, what's an info product? How do I get one? So everybody comes from a different place, and therefore I can't walk down the landing page aisle at the grocery store and pick one off the shelf and put it in my grocery cart, because everything has to be customized to the needs of the person that we're talking to.
So, conceptually, the landing page services that I would purchase from Marketing System Blueprints may cost me one amount, but a second company down the road could be totally different.
It could be, or depending on, if we're building all of the systems, it would be probably more expensive. So a fresh business, fresh out of the blocks, would probably need us to help them build those systems to be able to put that together. So if you took it piece by piece and you said, okay, well, yeah, Chrissanne, I already have an email client. And the next question that I would ask you would be, can you get me the form code, the HTML code for the form from your email client? Well, the answer would be either yes, or what is that, or no. And then we would go from there. So the answer is yes. One business's landing page would be differently priced than another business's landing page, solely based on what pieces of that landing page needed to be put together for the project.
Now that's very interesting, right? Because even with our discussion, and you guys who are watching this video don't know necessarily that we chatted beforehand and we talked about some of the things we were going to cover, because otherwise we'd look like idiots. But even with that sort of a preface, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like the time would scale based on the time necessary to get the work, or the price would scale based on the time necessary to get the work done.
It would, although the time would be better. The time would be adjusted based on. Okay, so let me present it to you this way. Let's say MailChimp is relatively new to the scene. I don't know, maybe they're less than a year old. They came on the scene and or it's been a little bit longer than that probably. But when MailChimp came on board, I had to go learn that system. Right. I needed to go in, create an account, figure it out, all of that. So the time there is not something that I'm charging the client for me to learn. It's just simply the fact that I've got to figure the system out in order to be able to provide that service. Typically what we do is we figure out when all of these new companies, startups, or whatever come into play, we figure them out in advance so that we can provide the solutions or the answers to the questions that the customer or the client might have. So yes, there is an element of time. Sometimes, I'll be honest with you, sometimes they'll bring to me something I'm not familiar with. And the typical thing is, well, hey, I need to figure this out for future clients, so I'm not going to charge for the time element of learning this new system, but I've got to provide them with that solution for that particular project. And so we go based on that. So it's a lot more complicated than I even know how to explain, but yeah, it does scale. It does scale.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's going to be the value in these sorts of videos, right? Because you're being very honest and open. And I think that other business owners, especially the ones that we work with on a daily basis, can benefit from that because they've all been here. How do you charge for your goods and services? What is a fair way to charge for your goods and services? And the thing that never came up in our little sort of mock conversation there is, what value was the landing page to me? Had I done the due diligence to figure out what it meant to me? And that, quite often, is the hardest part. When we're going to make a decision to spend our wampum, our dollars, right, we have to figure out why we're spending it. Do I expect to improve my Google page rank? Do I want to get an email list built? Right? What is my goal? Because unless I have these goals, targets, plans, expectations, there's no way in hell you can meet an expectation that isn't set. Right? So if I establish a value that says, well, I intend, based on using this, I have an info product, it's a chapter of a book I wrote, we've done a nice finished PDF that people can download, there's value in that, I think that they're going to want to read it, and I want an email list that then I can go ahead and prospect against in exchange for this info product. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to lead to 20 leads per month, and I have systems internally, hopefully, knock on wood, that tell me that my conversion rate is 30% or whatever, and that's going to lead to X amount of dollars. That allows me to assess a value. So let's just say in this example, I've determined that the landing pages, because of the increased conversion rate that they're supposed to provide, according to every web expert in the universe, right, will lead to an increase in revenue from me of $50,000. Let's just say.
Okay.
What's a fair price for you to charge to build me a landing page that makes that happen?
I don't know the answer to that question.
There is an answer. $49,999. Right? And
whatever it's going to take for you to make a profit?
Right? Yes. You laugh, but yes. That is the funny part about this. And you could actually make an argument that if it's year on year, it could be higher than that. Right? Because if I'm going to make that 50 every year, hell, if I don't have to change, if it's no maintenance, God love you. You just made me 50 grand a year. Right? And there's people right now that are calling BS right now. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. If it only takes her 3 hours to do it, why should I pay her $49,000? If I told you right now, if you give me $10, I'll give you $100. How many times would you give me $10?
Every single time.
I'd go to the nearest loan shark if I had to. I'd be selling plasma, right? But that is exactly what good services are from a provider, right? And you have to believe in those services and provide that value. Well, for me to make that assessment, guess what I have to know? My business. I need to know
Absolutely.
What the value is, right?
And let me go ahead and make a point here on your scenario, and the reality of a strategy like a landing page that also needs to be considered is, what kind of traffic is this landing page going to get? And if that landing page is only going to be seen by, let's look at your analytics. Let's see how much web traffic your site currently has. How much is that going to convert? Well, if it's a 10% conversion rate and you've got 100 visits, per month, you've got 10 new converted email addresses. That doesn't mean you made any money with 10 email addresses. That just means you have 10 email addresses.
Yep.
So I'm talking bare bones basics. You're talking, big numbers, and that's the thing. Sure. Is that we want to address, hey, why do you think you need a landing page?
Absolutely.
And if we don't think you need a landing page, then we're not going to sell you a landing page. But the difference is, you're going to Publix, you're going to the Crowder Brothers, or you're going wherever, and you're saying, this is what I need. The guy at the counter isn't going to tell you, no, you don't need that. You need this, because you haven't taken the time to talk to them and tell them what you're trying to do. So when you've told us there's better ways to do certain tasks, there's better ways to do certain things, better ways to get certain things accomplished that aren't always what you think they are. And sometimes it comes down to, hey, I might talk myself out of that sale of that landing page because that's not the best thing for you. And the value that I'm bringing to you is that I just saved you some money, and I sent you in a different direction, and my experience is going to teach you a little bit more about some of the things that you might need to do, because a landing page isn't only as valuable as the number of people that are going to get to it.
That's, it's funny. Again, in our little pre-talk, we got into this
talk about that either.
Well, we got into this concept, right? This is an important thing. In a consultative relationship, sometimes you have to say no to business, right? And that scares the hell out of a lot of small business. I don't want to say no to any business. So you only want to win you only go after the business you want to win is the mantra that I try and espouse, right? And that's exactly what you were talking about. And if I know the value, if I don't know the value, and you point out, hey, listen, we looked at your Google Analytics, and you've got 6 people who come to your website every month. They love your blog, though. They think you're really insightful and witty, but 3 of them are related to you. Right? And one of them's currently incarcerated. So if you would like to drive revenue, and that requires driving eyes, landing pages may not be the first thing we need to work on. We may need to get more than 6 people coming to your website. That's really, really powerful. So I know that the topic is value, and I think that there's still a pull-through to that here, because the value is in that consultative advice.
Absolutely.
Right? And again, I would argue vehemently that that is not based on some arbitrary market normative rate. And people say, well, how much should I charge per hour for my services? Well, the market rate for web developers is $55 in this region, so I'm going to undercut them at $45, and I'm going to go buy a bunch of business. Or I'm going to be the Mercedes, I'm going to charge $65 an hour. Hello, both arbitrary. Right? Take the time, understand your customer, understand their needs, right? I had a guy that I have a lot of respect for who says it all starts with pain. Where is the pain that you're trying to solve?
Yes.
Right? And then once they can actually articulate the pain, assign a dollar amount to it. Because if there's no dollar amount to the pain, you know what? Go out and have a drink. Right? Unless you're recovering, obviously. All kidding aside. But I'm just saying, this isn't a solution that Chrissanne and Marketing System Blueprints can help, or Derek at Plain Sight Strategy Group can help. Once you get to that dollar value, though, then a consultant or any business can provide value. And I think that this transcends consultative business. It goes to products and services as well, because your time, and we talked about opportunity cost earlier, the 10 hours that I've spent already looking at landing page solutions, because I am a technical person and I figure, well, it can't be that hard. I'm a technology guy, right? I should have been doing other stuff, right?
Should have been making other things happen, right?
In my particular case, developing info products, writing blog posts, who knows what the hell else, spending time with my family, right? If you happen to be a painter, or if you happen to be a craftsman, you should be doing those things. You should do the things that you do well, right? And leverage other experts to do those things.
Right.
And my experience has been, even though this can be a daunting conversation to have with people, because I'm telling you, once you go through this conversation enough, and if you go read the stuff that Alan Weiss writes, he is very good at describing this as well. If you charge per hour, let's say that I charge Chrissanne per hour for my coaching services, for her and Craig to use me as a coach, and I charge them per hour. How do I improve my revenue? How do I increase my revenue from them? I take longer. Does that make any sense? No.
Like you were saying earlier, you're just going to drag your feet to make it a higher pay for you.
Yeah. Everyone talks about win-win, and then it became overly popular to say win-win-win because it was an extra win. Right? Whatever. What you want is a model where both sides benefit. Right? If Chrissanne sees, and there are companies that do this, small market coaching companies that go in there and say it's $750 a month for mentorship, right? Well, if that mentorship may not this month lead to $750 more in profit or revenue, right? But over time, could it do it over 6 months? Could those lines cross at some point? Absolutely. You have to assess a value, assign a value to it. And sometimes that means making judgment calls, and it's tough. And it's certainly not as easy going as easy as saying, well, I'm going to get this web developer because they're out of the Ukraine and they're $26 an hour, and that's cheaper than my local guy who's $50 an hour. Never mind the fact that they're going to take 3 times as long to actually do the work.
Right.
And that's without a qualitative assessment about the work, because I've got some Ukrainian developers that are outstanding, right?
And it's true, and there's also going to be some communication issues where you're not going to have the ability to necessarily communicate accurately. And what if your communication isn't understood? You say this, they understand it X, they do it wrong, they come back. Well, you've got to pay for them to do it wrong, and then you got to pay for them to fix it. And it's not their fault that they don't understand that you weren't articulate enough to tell them how to do the job. At least in their arena, that's not something that they're going to guarantee. We're going to guarantee to get it right the first time, and you're only going to have to pay for it once. You're paying them by the hour. They're going to do it, and then they're going to come back, and you're going to say, hey, I need you to fix this, and you're going to pay them to fix that.
Right. The meter's running. Right. and it's funny because people want to pay per hour when it's in their best interest, and then they want to fix cost when it's in their best interest.
Yeah,
right?
Right.
You can't get the best of both worlds, right? You got to come up with what that value is, and then by God, then it's on me, if I'm the provider of services, to provide it at a level that I can live with from a margin perspective. So I want to wrap this thing up. I don't want you guys to have to watch this for too long. I have a face for radio, as is the case most of the time. But a couple of things that we covered. Value versus billable hours. And we can talk about this more. One of the things I want to do, and this is another topic we'll talk about, and this is something, Chrissanne, I know you're going to be passionate about, and we may even disagree on a number of things, which is always fun.
Oh, yay.
I am starting to become very, very disgusted by social media because I find it not so social, right? It's not as engaging. I think that, and I'm a fan of Facebook, conceptually for a lot of reasons, but I think that they have changed the word friend, the entire meaning of the word friend, and I think that they have changed the word like. They have made things like you said earlier about LBL, the Lakeland Business Leaders, testimonials have lost a lot of their power. It used to be if I told my neighbor, oh, use my roofer, if my roofer screwed up, I felt bad about it. Like I was upset about it. So that's one that I want to talk about, certainly.
And I don't disagree with you, by the way, just for the record.
That's cool. And I think that it can be, I don't think that the tool is broken, right? I think a lot of times we blame the tool. It's not the tool, right? The tool is just a hammer.
No.
right? Just because I suck with a hammer doesn't mean the hammer's broken.
No.
Right?
Exactly.
So we'll talk about that, but I want to wrap up a couple of things we did talk about. Getting out of this model of billing for your time, because the engagement matters. At the bottom of this video blog, and I haven't talked to Chrissanne about how she can do it on LBA, but on my page, you'll be able to give your feedback, right? Either through Facebook comments, integration, or whatever. Let's start a dialogue about this. Let's have conversation. We can do it in social media, on the webpage. We can do it on Facebook. We can do it in Twitter. We could even do it in person, because most of us live or work in Lakeland. We can actually get off our ass and go see one another. It's crazy.
That's a novel idea.
It's absolutely crazy. Time matters, but not the way you think it does. Your time as a business owner matters because you should stop wasting it, right? Don't look at it as your billable unit. Look at it as your investment unit, right? And there's an iron triangle discussion there for the old people who are watching this, if they're out there. Market sets your value, not the other way around. So just because you think that the value of your services is $10,000, if everyone else in the market's not charging $10,000 for it, you kind of got a tough road to hoe. So at least be aware of what the market is charging. That doesn't mean you have to agree, and you can take a contrarian stance. There's a lot of power in a contrarian stance. But at least be aware of it so that when people say, my God, $10,000, really? Everyone else charges 16 cents for this. You go, oh, well, my bad. And then the last point here is, in my experience, people will happily pay for value, right? That $10 for $100 is an extreme example, right? But if they are made aware of the value, people will happily pay for it, and then that's when they will tell others, because they have been shown the value of the services. So that's my recap. Right. Chrissanne, do you have any last thoughts?
I did have one a minute ago. I wanted to say the one of the toughest things I think we deal with as business owners is asking others, or maybe even telling others, that we don't have something figured out. I get that impression a lot from people, and I'll give the example, and I've got people that I'm planning on talking to, but we feel like we have to do it all, because otherwise that means we don't have the system in place. If we need to go ask for advice, then that means something's not working, and that's a vulnerability. And I know most business people are we still tend to be more male-driven. The business world tends to still be more male-driven, and I know asking for help is not something men like to do. But I think that that's another topic for another day.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys have other ideas for topics as well, this is going to be something we're going to do as the topics come to us. It's just a video blog, guys. It's just an interview video blog. Nothing revolutionary about this. But it's a way to try and get more engaging, because you can only read so many blog articles before you kind of start crossing eyes. So thanks to Chrissanne again. Chrissanne with Marketing System Blueprints. Check them out.
Thank you, Derek.
We'll have a URL at the end, a little tag for people to click on to go check out the stuff you do, as well as Lakeland Business Leaders. And if you want to check out my stuff, plain-site.net. And please do engage. Let's get some conversation about this stuff. Thanks again, Chrissanne.